So these are the fat balls. And these are the peanuts for the birds. Oh, hello children. Nice to see you. I'm here with Marvin the monkey. Say hello, Marvin. What, you want to fill the bird feeders now? Okay. Children, we are filling the bird feeders in readiness for winter so that the birds in our garden will have lots to eat. We're now going to fill the bird feeder with these lovely peanuts. Let's go. Well, Marvin, I think I've filled the bird feeder right up to the brim. I don't think we can get any more nuts in there. I tell you what, why don't you go and hang the bird feeder in a tree in the garden while I talk to the children on my own? So we'll find out later how Marvin got on putting that bird feeder on a tree. Now we've been looking at animals and we found out that God is the creator of the animals. But he's not just the creator. He continues to look after and care for all his animals. In fact, sometimes he uses his animals to carry out his special plans. Last week, God used a sea creature. It swallowed up Jonah and then vomited him back onto the seashore. So what are we going to look at today? Well, we're going to look at another really exciting story. God's people were in trouble. They were in real trouble because the king of the northern kingdom who looked after God's people was none other than King Ahab. King Ahab was so evil. He was so wicked. In fact, he was probably the most evil king that ever ruled over God's people. And to make things worse, he married Queen Jezebel. Now, Queen Jezebel was just as wicked as King Ahab. So together, they were terrible. They were awful. They no longer loved God or worshipped God. In fact, they had set up their own temple. A temple where they worshipped false gods. They made them out of stone, or they made this big pole and they worshipped it. Can you imagine anything so silly as that? These gods were no gods. They couldn't hear you. They couldn't answer your prayers. Now, God was really angry. In fact, he sent his special prophet Elijah with a special message to King Ahab. And this was the message. I'm going to stop all the rain from falling from the sky. And I'm going to stop all the dew that comes on the grass in the morning. I'm going to stop it all, said God, until I decide to start it again. And that was a message that Elijah gave to King Ahab. Now, just let's think about that for a moment. Was that really, really bad news? Well, yeah, it was terrible news. What happens if it doesn't rain? Well, if it doesn't rain, nothing grows. No plants, no crops, no wheat, no barley, no apple trees, no bushes that have berries on them. Nothing at all. And if it doesn't rain, there's nothing to drink. The animals don't have anything to drink. And if the animals don't have anything to drink, they'll die. So there would be no water to drink, and there would be no food to eat. But God loved Elijah. He was one of his special people. And God knew that King Ahab would be really, really angry, and he'd be searching for Elijah, probably because he wanted to kill him. So God sent Elijah to a special place. He sent him to the Kerith ravine. Now this was a place out in the middle of nowhere. Rocky mountains, nothing growing much there, really, really hot, almost like a desert. Now why would God send him there? Well, nobody was going to go there, and God had a special plan for Elijah. Running through the ravine was a very little river or a stream. Sometimes we call it a brook. And God kept the water running through that river so that he had plenty of water to drink all throughout the day. But what was Elijah going to eat? Away out in the middle of nowhere, there was nothing growing. What would he eat? Well, this is when God used his animals. He got some ravens. Now, ravens can be quite selfish animals, but God told the ravens to take Elijah some bread and some meat every single morning. So they would fly in with this bread and this meat every morning. Almost like Elijah had his own takeaway service with free delivery. Every morning it was taken in. And Elijah would eat as much as he wanted to last him through the day. But there was more. Because then God told the ravens to take him some bread and meat in the evening as well for his supper. So Elijah had more bread and more meat to eat. And then he could go to sleep and he wouldn't go to bed feeling hungry. Wasn't God really kind to do that for Elijah? Meanwhile, King Ahab was searching everywhere to try and find Elijah, but he couldn't find him because God had Elijah safe in his special place, and God was using the birds to feed Elijah. Now that's only the end of part 1 of that story. Now children, you might want to know what happened to Elijah and what happened to King Ahab, and did it ever start to rain again? Well, why not ask Mum and Dad to read it to you this afternoon? You may have a Bible at home. Why not get your children's Bible, if you've got one at home, and have a look and see if you can find out what happened to Elijah. And if you don't, ask Mum and Dad to read it to you in 1 Kings chapter 17. Now there are a few really important messages that we can learn from today's story. The first one, and the most obvious one, is that God is in control of his animals. God is in control of the birds, and he told them what to do. How amazing is God that he can instruct the birds to carry out his plans. But secondly, this story tells us that God really cared for Elijah. Even though there was a real problem in the land, he never forgot about Elijah. Elijah might have felt all alone. He might have even felt lonely, but he knew God was still looking after him. Now, at the moment in our country, we're facing a bit of a problem. You might know about it. Sometimes we're not allowed to go out of our house. We've got to stay in. Some people might feel quite lonely. Some people might feel that everything's against them. But when you feel like that, remember that God hasn't forgotten about you. He knows where you are, and he'll look after you, and he'll care for you. And the second thing, or the third thing that we can learn is this. God likes it when we trust him. God likes it when we have to depend upon him. What do I mean? Well, when I was a little boy, and I heard that story, I often wondered, why didn't God just send loads of food at the start that would last him all the way through? Well, it could be because the food would go off in the hot weather. The meat and the bread might not last very long. That's a good reason. But I also think that God likes it when we trust him every day. We wake up in the morning and we trust God to provide for us. And then we trust God as we go through the day. And then in the evening, before we go to bed, we are still trusting in God. I think God really likes it when we do that. Right, well, I wonder where Marvin's got to with those nuts and that bird feeder. Shall we go and find out? Come on then, let's go and see. Hey Marvin, you've put the bird feeder on the tree. That's great. Hang on a minute, Marvin. It's only half full. Where are all the other nuts? Marvin? Where are all the other nuts? Marvin, open your mouth. Oh, Marvin, they weren't for you. They were for the birds. Say bye-bye to the children, Marvin. See you, everyone. Take care.